Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Monday afternoon. It is URC final week as well, by the way. Now, time to get quite excited. The Stormers are less than a week away from having an opportunity to try and win back-to-back URCs. This week, Saturday, they will host Munster in the URC Grand Final, and obviously, this entire week is going to be a lot of build-up towards that. Fan Forum, for example, will be very much focused on that. We'll be doing a couple of live shows. Lots of build how to watch videos. The absolute works. Try and make that Alberta to the UFC final the best out there. But before then, something I wanted to chat to today, and it's something I planned because today was supposed to be the World Cup selection show, and today we're supposed to be doing, I think, centers. We're supposed to be doing centers today, and outside backs on Wednesday, and choosing the team on Thursday. So we're going to delay that by a day. Tomorrow we'll do centers. Wednesday we'll do outside backs. Thursday we'll choose a team. Thursday night will be the fan forum. And basically we're going to have an opportunity to choose that final sort of Springbok World Cup squad. But today, on the back of the news yesterday, I'd really like to have an interesting discussion about the whole new salary cap that is being apparently approved by SA Rugby, and what it's going to mean for all the teams. And yeah, it's a really interesting one, because it's one of those things where, you know, it on the face of it, we'd love to have a bigger salary cap. We'd love to be able to pay our players more, bring back better players, hold on to our players, etc., etc., etc. So on the face of it, it's not a bad thing. But the only problem is can we actually afford it? Can we actually afford what is being proposed? And how are we going to afford it? Or is this just going to create an even bigger gap between the rich unions, the poor unions, and, the whole sort of player drain in between unions could actually really sort of increase? And is there going to be a case of where the top unions can manage to hold on to some of their best players, the mid-tier unions just lose their best players to the top unions, and kind of the cycle sort of just kind of repeats, and it just becomes a bit of an elitist system within South Africa. So this is where I think SA Rugby have got to be very careful and very strategic in the way that this is implemented. Now, we did talk about, I mean, SA Rugby must have released the financial about a month ago, I think, when we did a video on when they announced the loss that they had over the last calendar year. Yeah, it was earlier this month. It was actually 20 days ago. So there was a financial loss, a small financial loss, but all the revenue and stuff were on, were up. Now, here's the problem. In that report, it still talked about the fact that we do not currently get money from the URC. We do not currently get money from the EPCR. That is not going to change in the next sort of season. URC, we are supposed to become full members before the EPCR, but that money is not going to start filtering into our unions just yet. So the question becomes, the story is that, and we assume that it's the URC unions, because that's the unions that have a 67.5 million rand salary cap. The story is that they apparently have been approved a salary cap increase up to 85 million rand, 17.5 million rand. Well, yeah, it's about almost 20 million rand more. So it's gonna be, for me, it's gonna be a case of, can we afford it? Can we afford the extra 17.5 million rand? Is that feasible for us, or is this going to be the start of a very slippery slope? Because at the moment we're seeing in the Premiership clubs going bankrupt, and in Wales we're seeing clubs that just can't afford. They're just not viable. They're not financially viable right now. Now, the question remains, is this financially viable for South African teams? Now, if it genuinely is, if it is right now within the current budgets and the financial constraints that all the unions, without compromising other aspects, can afford the salary cap increase, then fantastic. Brilliant. We can hold on to our best players. We can start to bring players back potentially. But the issue becomes is, what does this do to our unions? So say a Sharks, who have got big private equity behind them, big private investment, lots and lots of money. They're sitting there going, yeah, we can afford 85 million rand. Don't you stress. We need that extra 17.5 million rand. We'll front it and we'll find sponsorships and stuff like that to come in and replace that money. So don't you stress. The Currie Cup team won't be touched. The junior structures won't be touched. Nothing will change. We're just going to add an extra bit to the salary cap. Cool. Great. Fantastic. But what we don't want to see is a union like the Lions going, we can't really afford this. We're going to have to get creative. But if we cut some funding there, and we cut some funding there, and stuff like that, then maybe we can push our salary cap to there. I mean, right now, the Lions are not using their full salary cap. There's no ways they're using their 67.5 million rand. Not if you look at the squad they have. It's such a young squad. They're not that many big players. No Springboks, for example. If they are using the 67.5 million rand, then it's being used really, really badly. So, as I said, on the face of it, having a salary cap, the salary cap's there for a reason. There's a reason it's capped. And that is to make sure that all the unions and franchises remain financially stable and that their business model is financially viable. So we're now entering a stage, and my problem is that we've had the financial report from SA Rugby talking about how revenue's up, things are going well, but we're still going to have to sort of sit there bearing the brunt of our move up north for the next couple of years. I think they used the word medium term. Not even short term, short to medium term. Which means that all of a sudden that, we're not just going to get an extra 50 million rand into the bank accounts. The Lions are not going to wait. Charlie's not going to wake up tomorrow to a bank notification going 50 million rand has been deposited into your account. Cool, we're A for away. It's going to be a while until the URC and the EPCR money starts to filter down. And yes, we're now playing in Europe. Can we start leveraging bigger sponsorships, foreign investment? Of course we can. That was one of the biggest reasons for going overseas, is to try and attract bigger sponsors, bigger partners, and to try and sort of make us much more sort of globally attractive to investors. One of the big reasons for moving there, obviously the time zone and the competition, stuff like that, but that was definitely a big part. We want to try and get foreign currency. You've got euro, you've got the pound, that we want to start leaning on. You want to start bringing that sort of currency into our unions. It's going to take time. It is going to take time. And what for me scares me is that not only is there a 17.5 million rand increase this season, that's going to go up another 10 million rand next year, which means that within 2 years, a 27.5 million rand increase. Where are these unions going to get the money? Can they get the money? And what is stopping them from overspending? This is my biggest worry. Are there checks and balances? Are there conditions? What are the conditions? I mean, imagine they have to be. I'm pretty sure, SA Rugby don't just go, oh, cool, yeah, just spend 85 million rand, you guys are fine. But there are certain red flags for me. First of all, is the 85 million rand. I don't see where that money's coming from. Second of all, it's that small little sentence saying that in addition to a 53-man squad that you can contract, you can sign 4 marquee players, and they will not count towards a salary cap. That for me is very, very worrying. Because if you follow a lot of sports stuff like that, marquee players and players with major contracts cause a lot of issues for clubs and teams. It basically ends up in inflated salaries, unfortunately, because you go and say, right, so let's say 85 million rand to contract 53 players for next season. That's an average salary of about 1.6 million rand. Okay. So yeah, I mean, cool. That means that if everyone's earning the exact same amount, obviously it's not the case, but it would be an average salary of about 133,000 rand a month, which is pretty good. But obviously, some people earn more than that, some people earn less than that. There'll be junior contracts and senior contracts. It's not necessarily junior and senior contracts, but junior contracted players will be on less than senior contract players, etc., etc. So that is kind of sort of the average. So it's decent money. It's not quite money you're going to earn overseas, depending on the contracts you can get, but it's decent money. Now, you are now earning your 1.6 million rand. Cool. You're actually a senior player. So they've said, no, we can actually afford you to pay you 3 million rand a season. Now, 3 million rand a year. You're not earning basically double what, the average salary is. Cool. As a result, somebody else has to earn half that. Not necessarily, but let's just keep the math pretty simple. They go and say, listen, you're a really good player. You're going to earn 6 million rand. Cool. Somebody else is going to earn 200,000 rand. Not quite. I don't think anyone's earning 200,000 rand, but like a 500,000 salary, for example. Try and compensate. So they've all these different contract stuff like that. And you've then got a 53-man contract squad, cool, something, and the salaries may be ranging from, I don't know, a million to 6 million rand, or a million to 5 million rand. Those are the various sort of salaries depending on the players. And they then go and say, right, we actually want to bring in 4 marquee players. Now, this doesn't count towards the salary cap, so we can actually pay them whatever we want. So we're going to bring in Stevie P. We're going to bring Stevie P back. We're going to pay him 10 million rand. 10 million rand a year. Bearing in mind that, for example, like Ches and Colby, Andre Pollard, when overseas are earning about 20 million rand a year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So to say that Stevie P is going to want 10 million rand is not even like unrealistic. He could very well be wanting 15, for example. So say he comes back on a 12.5 million rand contract. You got Stevie P, cool. Former player of the year, great. 12.5 million rand contract at the Stormers as a marquee player. Evan Lewis is sitting there going, guys, I'm being paid like 2.5 here. Now, I get it. He's a world player of the year. He's earning like 5 times what I'm earning. No, that's not acceptable to me. I want to earn more than that. I want to earn more. And he's not a marquee player. Therefore, he's part of the 53-man squad. So he's saying, no, I want to earn more. I want to walk away. And they go, no, we can't afford you to walk away. We'll bump you up. And every single time a player on a bigger contract goes up and up and up, there's less and less money for other players. And you end up with a situation where you might have, 5 or 6 players on these massive contracts, and you've got no money for everybody else. And we all know that rugby is more than even just a 15-man game, even a 23-man game. It's about your squad depth. And if you sit there with, 4 or 5 superstars and then a bunch of youngsters, nobody else, which can't really compete, it's not going to be successful. You've got to find that balance of really top players and really good players in and around them. But in order to prevent sort of, salary inflation, inflated salaries, you've got to keep it all relatively competitive. There needs to be a bit of I can see how I can earn what they earn. They're earning there, and I can see why they earn that. You want to sit there as a young prop, as a Sunday, as a young tight head going, well, Francois Herbert's earning that, and he's probably the best tight head in the world. Cool, I like that, actually. And if I want to earn that, this is what I want to do. And there needs to be a big enough, or small enough, rather, disparity for them to be able to go, as Saturday, Sunday, I'm happy with what I'm earning, and I can understand why he's earning that. You don't want to be in a situation where you're going, yeah, listen, I understand he's good, but should he be earning that much compared to what I'm earning? Like, surely I'm worth a bit more. Because that's the problem. It's never a case of, well, he should actually be earning less. Well, I should be earning more because he's earning that. And that's when the sort of idea of the marquee players can become very problematic, in that they're not regulated in terms of their salaries. They can be whatever they want. And yes, from a financial, from an administrative point of view, they don't count towards the salary cap, so they can get away with it. But all the internal stuff that it could create could become a massive problem. I'm a Man United supporter. I've seen this story. We've seen, if you support Manchester United, or football, you'll see how clubs, Barcelona for example, have paid certain players far too much, and it systematically breaks down the club. And this is what could happen if we get this really wrong. Now, this sounds very pessimistic. I don't want to be the miserable person saying this is not going to work, and this is just a terrible idea. But we cannot just blindly go into the night going, you're going to get contracts. You're going to get contracts. Pierce Deftatoy is going to come back. We're going to bring back Andre Pollard. We're going to bring back all these cool Springboks. We're going to bring in international stars. Emmanuel Buffet is going to be playing out of here. We're going to bring back all these really cool players, and it's going to be fantastic. I mean, and then all of a sudden we're going to sit there and go look at our accounting balance and go, we're broke. Because that could be a genuine issue. Wasps and Worcester are not playing. This season. There are other Premiership clubs now under a lot of a strain of going into administration. The Welsh rugby system faced a collapse. And until there were emergency meetings, and even after the emergency meetings, there is a genuine issue. Like, Welsh rugby is financially not viable. They have lost so many players now because they've had to, because they couldn't put contracts on the table, and certain clubs didn't have the money to offer contracts players. It's an absolute disaster. the Premiership at the moment is in a bit of a crisis at the moment. They're having to review, and because they're talking about a salary increase, and everybody's going, but I mean, cap increase, but everybody's going, but clubs are falling apart. They are literally, they've lost 2 clubs. Worcester Warriors and Wasps are gone right now. They do not exist at the moment. And I think it was the Wasps lost their license for the championship next season, so they're not going to be back. And, you know, so there are so many examples of why a salary cap can be such a dangerous thing that we've got to make sure we get this right. We've done a lot of good in the last few years. I genuinely believe we've done a lot of good as SA Rugby. The Stormers have been an absolute brilliant example of what can be done with smart planning, good coaching staff. I mean, the administration. I mean, we get the fact that someone's done all this whilst under administration. So, you know, backroom staff have been an absolute mess, and SA Rugby have had to come and step in. But it's a bit of a success story in regards to on the field. So, especially in a country where there have been so many boardroom issues, I look at the Lions and think the issues at the Lions are so much more than just the 15 guys around the field at the moment. You know, there's lots of issues behind the scenes. You kind of sit there and thinking at the Bulls and the Sharks are the only pretty well-run unions, but then you look at the Bulls and think, well, they're having a bit of an issue at the moment. But as I said, in terms of the way they run, pretty very well. So it all comes down to what are the parameters? Cool, we've got this 85 million rand. You know, so if I look at this bottle and say, this is my 85 million rand, this is your full salary cap. To put an example, I reckon this is probably the 65 million rand cap. This is the 85 million rand cap, and this is probably what the Lions are paying. But that's just on a side note. But if you've got this 85 million rand salary cap, what do you, as the unions, have to do to be able to get this bottle? What do you have to show SA Rugby? What do you have to put in place for me to say you can fill this bottle up? That is what I want to know. That is what SA Rugby have to get right. You know, we cannot just say, carte blanche, go and find it. If you can find it, you can use it. You know, a couple of comments in the video I did earlier, stuff like that, talked about the fact that, you know, for example, winnings are something, and for example, are not factored into your budget, stuff like that. You cannot include winnings in your sort of long-term planning because then it's not a long-term guaranteed amount. Sponsorships you can, investments you can, for example. You've got to sit there and go, right, last year we made 400 million rand. And we, you know, that's how much income. And, you know, we made 100 million rand profit, for example. Therefore, an extra 17.5 million rand, easy, we can afford that. Not gonna matter. Long-term wise, we can afford it, you know. But we can't sit there going, yeah, listen, we kind of made about a 10 million rand profit. You know, so I reckon if we can try and get some more sponsors, we can maybe get some more tickets. If we can sell more tickets, we can probably, we could probably afford the extra, 12.5 million rand that right now we don't have. We reckon we can get. That's where the slippery slope comes in, because a sponsor pulls out. You know, something happens. For whatever reason, you lose. For example, the Stormers are going to get a lot of money out of this weekend's URC final. That's not a guaranteed thing. For example, so ticket sales fluctuate up and down. Things happen. As I said, sponsors pull out, investors pull out. You have to you incur big expenses, for example, for whatever reason. All of a sudden, that 12.5 million rand that you were pretty sure you can find, suddenly you're having to try and find 25 million, 35 million rand because of other incurred expenses. And now you get to the end of the season making a 25, 30 million rand loss. And the problem is that this is not a one-time purchase. This is not we probably shouldn't have bought that car. We probably shouldn't have built that training ground, which is now fully paid off, or whatever. These are salaries. That is the yearly expense. It's not going to go down. It's not a once-off purchase, and it's only going to go up because we're going up to 95 million rand. So this is why it has to be done so cautiously. Going through some of the comments, I'll be saying nothing wrong with increasing the salary cap if the board uses the money properly. But to be honest, if SA teams are allowing sponsors or other means of payment alongside their salary, then what's the point? James saying, keen to hold on our best players and bring talent to SA. Just feel this was probably a season or two too early. Want to see URC and European Cup revenues before increasing costs. I'll be saying also remember it's going to increase the year after next. Well, yeah, as we mentioned. The way forward is definitely to invest in the youngsters, says Angelo. Jake White's idea to buy success is not the way forward. The World Cup builder will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. As I said, given the fact that how big this news is, I wanted to do a bit of a show about it. So the World Cup selection tomorrow will be back tomorrow at Temple. So sorry for not doing it today. We will just push it tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And again on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And Thursday at 1 o'clock. Albie says, sounds like better pay than the average Super Rugby contract. Yeah, so we haven't chosen Tipuric at the Lions. I'll tell you what, I'll take Justin Tipuric on a season. And Steven's saying, what kind of financial rules are these surrounding the use of prize money to fund current expenditure? Ideally, it should be treated as a windfall, not as ongoing income. Yeah, so that's what I was talking about, where Ireland do treat it as windfall, and they go, right, cool, you've got that extra money, lacquer, cool, can't use it in your planning. If they go and take your 10 million rand and invest it somewhere, and then it's it's a monthly income coming back every month or whatever, then cool, you can use it, but you can't just the Stormers cannot just say, well, we've won 5 million rand for winning the URC. Well, it's more than that, but cool. As a result, we've got an extra 5 million rand for next year. As a result, we can bump up salaries. You've got to show sustainable income. You've got to show genuine affordability and stuff. So I put a poll out, and there's 33 votes, and I said, is it a good idea? And 64% have said yes. What's been interesting is the more we've been talking about it, the more that no has been growing. And I think that, again, I think we're all probably in the same sort of boat, where we're all saying the concept of a higher salary cap is fantastic. We want to be able to have our best players. If a higher salary cap means that Malcolm Marx, Franco Mostert, and all these people are going to come back to the Lions, and we're going to be able to keep Franco Horn and Ruan Venter and Henk van Wyk and Jordan Hendrickse and all these fantastic players coming through, I'm a happy man. I'm a very happy man. But if this now means the Lions go bankrupt in 2 years, nah, I don't want that. I'd rather limp along and make a plan and try and build, before I want to see my team disappear. As I said, you don't want to see like Leeds, for example, Leeds United, who did the same thing. They spent far too much money, and they ended up being in the Championship for years and years and years, down in lower league football, and it took them years and years to get back to the Premier League. That was a side that was winning Premier Leagues. That was a huge team, and we've seen it. For example, like a Juventus have did all these various financial issues and stuff like that, and overspent here and had lots of dodginess and stuff like that. They got relegated back down to again to the low tiers of Italian football, and had to work their way back up to Serie A. So we don't want to try and take a shortcut which results in long-term damage. It has to be a very long-term, is this viable? Can we afford it? Can we genuinely make this work situation? And if it is, all for it. If it's not, no. Rather take an extra year or two, rather lose players for another year or two and build towards it being a genuine possibility than to try and rush through something and try and say, no, well, I'm sure we'll be fine. That's the worst thing you can ever hear. I'm sure we'll be fine. We can't take that risk. We cannot take that risk of imploding. It has to be done properly. Andrew's saying, why is it not making any money from URC? Are we just doing pay to play to build brand awareness? So it's a case of you only get money from it once you're a full member, for example. And we're not full members yet, same as EPCR. So we will eventually, but it's only once sort of we become full members of this competition, stuff like that we will then get we're going to have to sort of just wait and bide our time and stuff like that. Line saying, what would happen if we capped player salaries and the categories of the salaries were grouped according to how many games were played? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know, to be honest. To ask that one person, I'd have to actually think about that a bit more. But yeah, so I just want to jump on here and have a bit of a discussion and stuff like that and see what everybody had to say and stuff. So that is the situation at the moment. Again, we actually haven't really had confirmation. This is all just stories and stuff, but that is apparently what's going on. It's usually pretty reliable. And so you wait to see exactly what's going to come out of it. I'm hoping we'll see more about how this is going to be implemented and stuff like that. But yeah, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be live once again tomorrow. And yeah, until then, enjoy the channel. Go and watch the other content. And I'll